Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Keeping quiet on the campaign trail. I'm John Saucier, Fox News. The press has had plenty of questions for Vice President Kamala Harris. She hasn't been giving a ton of answers. Former President Trump touched on this yesterday during a news conference.
You know why she's not doing it? Because she can't do a news conference. She doesn't know how to do a news conference.
Well, yesterday, the Vice President did break her streak. Speaking to reporters for about a minute or so, Fox's Peter Ducey has more.
The Vice President spoke for a little bit more than 1 minute in that plainside gaggle that broke the no questions answered streak. But there is no reason to think that her team might need to prep her quite a bit more before she talks for more than 60 or 70 seconds. Case in point, she apparently, according to the New York Times, told a group of uncommitted voters in Michigan that she is open to the idea of an arms embargo, stop shipping some U.S. arms to Israel, which her team immediately had to walk back. Her national security advisor, Phil Gordon, came right out to say VP has been clear she will always ensure Israel is able to defend itself against Iran and Iran-backed terrorist groups.
Well, so the recent polling from RealClearPolitics.com shows Vice President Harris with about a half-point lead on former President Trump in the general election. Speaking of the former president, some new footage has been released of the attempted assassination against him in Butler, Pennsylvania. Fox's Alexis McAdams has more.
This body cam footage shows another vantage point. This is in the minutes right after the shooting. You can hear these cops talking about what went horribly wrong. One officer livid, saying he told the Secret Service to secure that roof.
Why were we not on the roof? Why weren't we?
About 30 seconds before this person opened fire from the roof, one officer had a chance to stop this entire thing, to stop Thomas Crooks. That local cop was boosted up by another officer, but when he saw the armed 20-year-old up on that rooftop, he dropped down to the ground. Then the gunman opened fire. That officer says Thomas Crooks was on his stomach, armed with an AR.
America is listening to Fox News.
'93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Why they might be adding a new department. I'm Harrison Silcox. Here's what's trending this hour. The Indianapolis City County Council has offered a solution to address complaints of sexual harassment in city government. Tony Burgess reports.
So here's the basics. Former Indy Deputy Mayor Thomas Cook is accused of grooming and sexually harassing city staffers for years, and Mayor Joe Hogsett is accused of not taking proper action. So the council wants to create a separate HR branch that will focus exclusively on sexual harassment and discrimination complaints. Councilors also want to bring in experts to find holes in harassment policies and modify city code to require all city employees to take harassment prevention training. Donnie Burgess, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
A crisis center is set to open in Muncie to help people improve their situations. Lisa Suttle from Meridian Health says the center will provide essential support
to where they feel comfortable with an outpatient appointment, and or sometimes it may still be needed that they go to the emergency room, so that won't be left out of the picture. It's just an assessment to where we can really take a look at what's going on with the patient.
Suttle is hoping that new center will be able to open by this fall. And the Indianapolis Colts know how they want to approach their first preseason game this Sunday against the Denver Broncos.
The starters will play a series or two, and then we'll get the young guys in there and give them opportunity.
Colts head coach Shane Steichen. He says he's especially excited to see quarterback Anthony Richardson play after he missed most of last season with injuries. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's the forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
This Friday evening, we're generally clear with low temperatures dropping into the mid-50s, so a nice, cool, refreshing feel overnight thanks to northwestern breeze, continuing to bring dry air into our region as you move into tomorrow. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Drew Sutis for 93 WIBC.
Garage door problems? Call today for service today. Garage Doors of Indianapolis services all makes of garage doors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call today for service today. 875-4577. Call today for service today. Get it fixed right now. Call Garage Doors of Indianapolis at 875-4577 or visit doorstoday.com.
In the morning, call 875-4577. Service today. Today. Your home is your sanctuary. Get the peace of mind you deserve with a free estimate on a Generac automatic standby generator for your home from Generator Supercenter, the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. With expert installation and 24-hour monitoring, Generator Supercenter won't leave you in the dark. Financing is available. Take control of your power today with Generator Supercenter. Call 317-827-0808. Generator Supercenter of Indianapolis, 317-827-0808.
After I got out of the Marine Corps, coming back home, it was just a mental breakdown for me. I was on the verge of giving up. That chapter, that season in my life was over. Now what? Who was I? That's what I kept asking myself. The pressure to have it all together, to heal, to quiet down the monsters inside, it was too much. I lost it. I had heard about the Wounded Warrior Project. I had seen the logo and that visual of a warrior carrying another warrior. The programs that the Wounded Warrior Project offers, it's not just the veteran themselves, it's their whole family. It brings it all together. We have scars that we carry, and just because the scars are there doesn't mean that we're any less than what we were. Right now, I'm the best version that I ever have been of myself. I can embrace the brokenness.
You wouldn't go into battle alone. You don't have to fight this alone. Visit woundedwarriorproject.org/notalone.
Tony Katz.
It's Kendall and Casey. The Amber and Nigel show.
All right, well, when does your show start? Do we know? I feel like I've been promoting this for 9 years now.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Good evening to each and every one of you. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast, first on 93 WIBC, syndicated through the Daily Signal all around the country. It's been a wild week, and you know that because you've been following some of the news, whether on your smartphone as you groggily wake up in the morning, whether it's on the radio when you're in the car, whether it's that podcast, that TV station on in the background of whatever restaurant, if you can, afford to go to a restaurant these days. And they're all saying the same things. They're talking about Trump down in Mar-a-Lago, or perhaps in Montana this evening. Perhaps they're talking about Tim Walz and the numerous controversies surrounding him, and we will get to those, I promise. Maybe it's about Kamala Harris and the wonderful, amazing, beautiful just joy that she brings to the campaign without answering any questions. None of those people are the president of the United States, though. None of them. You remember Joe? Old Uncle Joe Biden, the guy who was sharp as a tack behind closed doors, who bowed out of the race for a reason that neither he nor Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary, nor really anyone on the left side of the aisle has actually deemed to tell us why he stepped out of the race. And he doesn't actually leave office until January. Judging by my watch, it's August. That's not a month next to January. That's the other side of the calendar. Biden is sitting in office, at least, well, we think. We're not quite sure. The President of the United States has been in public a grand total of once in the last couple of weeks. And that was to invite the Texas Rangers to the White House. Yeah, you guys know there's stuff going on in the world. We'll get to that. But first, obviously, if this is the only time we've seen Biden in front of the public, this Texas Ranger event must have been really, really important. I mean, what could be more important than an event honoring a Major League Baseball team? Well, I'm sure the president showed, just as always, that he was cool, casual, calmly collected, and ready to lead. He certainly wasn't making up random baseball trivia that kind of embarrassed the team. Making up, let's say, runs batted in. I'm sure that there's none of that. Oh no.
Garcia, another Major League record. Most RBIs in a single season.
The players behind him are kind of laughing awkwardly.
My job, I'm always looking for runs batted in.
Awkward laughter because the dude's straight up making up statistics. The guys are like, wait, I did what? Who? Yeah, excellent. And then Biden starts talking about haberdasheries, which, I'll be honest with you, that's a word that I don't hear very often. Last time I think I heard someone use the word haberdashery seriously, it was on an episode of iCarly on Nickelodeon. So anyway, here's Biden talking about the haberdashers.
By the way, I want to know who the hell Nathan's haberdasher is. I like his dress, man, I tell you. Looking good, Nathan.
I don't know who the haberdasher. By the way, the haberdasher does not actually make the suit. A haberdasher sells like ties and belts and like cufflinks. It's like the male accessory for the suit. So, I mean, I don't know why I'm fact-checking the President of the United States language. We all know that he's usually talking about fist-fighting corn pop or his uncle being eaten by cannibals on the Francis Scott Key Bridge. But that wasn't all. He's talking about putting a bunch of rings on thumbs and finger. The man who holds the nuclear football, ladies and gentlemen.
Told him he's going to need another finger, or else he got to put the fifth ring on his thumb. I mean, I don't know how you do that, man.
Oh, at least this is coming at a fairly peaceful time around the world. Oh, wait! No, everything is burning down, and U.S. soldiers, Marines, and sailors are directly in harm's way. So, you know, the Middle East is on fire, which I know, day ending in Y, but this is a particular fight that has been brewing for a very long time. We have been waiting for decades for the Iranian Shia regime to finally push its luck too far, to finally move to the point where their citizens are furious with them, to the point where regional neighbors, including the Sunni Muslim populations, not just the Israelis, are also angry with Iran, and things are going to start to happen very, very quickly. And so at this time, we kind of wanted a president who, you know, could probably find the Middle East on a map. The White House has issued no statements from the president directly at all about this chaos that is currently unfolding. So here's what we know right now, and this is updating. We might have to move forward with some of this information. That's if I get a note from my producer mid-show. Right now, in northeastern Syria, the U.S. military base at Harab al-Shir Airport has reportedly been struck by several Iranian-backed drones within the last hour. We can see fire and smoke coming from the base. This is according to Open Source Intelligence Defender and SOHR. So that's a very, very serious problem because U.S. troops are often at U.S. military bases. So U.S. troops are in constant and consistent danger at the moment. The President of the United States, according to the Associated Press, held an ice cream social at the White House. I thought ice cream socials were usually reserved for like Methodist churches on Wednesday night, but that's great. By the way, Israel has also issued an official notice to the nation of Lebanon that they are considering Lebanon responsible for any missile attacks from Hezbollah that kill Israeli citizens. And that if Hezbollah does, in fact, inflict rocket attack deaths on Israeli civilians, then Israel is going to take out the main airports in Lebanon as well as the entire power grid within like a day. So, again, calming things right down. Now, there are reports suggesting that senior Hamas commander Samar al-Hajj and his bodyguard Samar al-Khah were two of the terrorists eliminated in the Israeli airstrike earlier on the port city of Sidon in southwestern Lebanon today. India and Russia, as well as several other nations, have suspended all commercial flights, some ranging for the next couple of weeks, some until like the end of October. It is a mess right there, right now. By the way, no one has any idea if Iran is going to escalate or de-escalate. There's no leadership at all. And how do I know this? The only word that we have had from the White House is that a, quote, senior Biden administration official, unquote, this is from Axios, stated earlier today that Iran has, quote, no legitimate basis whatsoever to launch a military attack against Israel, quote. Apparently there would also be, quote, quite significant consequences, and if Iran decided to follow through with such a direct attack. Oh, whoa, another don't maneuver. Yeah, that worked so well the last 5 times that failed. So, just stellar stuff. No wonder we actually see U.S. allies and U.S. allies, U.S. co-defenders, U.S. associates who are at this point moving forward with basically just attacking targets on their own. They're no longer even alerting the United States what their plans are beforehand, because as we've seen at least a dozen times now in the Biden administration, information ends up leaking out to Iran through Turkey, to Hamas through Turkey. Basically, Turkey's just funneling information to all of the United States enemies in the region. Russia is now working directly with Iran as well, in that the Iranian government is delivering several hundred of the Fatah 360 short-range tactical ballistic missiles to Russia, because Russia is now starting to face a very serious Ukrainian counteroffensive in the Kursk Oblast region. So now Ukraine is actually pushing into Russia, attempting to cut off some of the Russian territory in the south. Things are heating up very, very quickly. And Biden, by the way, has just finally released the $3.5 billion of aid to Israel that the United States Congress approved back in April. Remember when Trump got impeached for suggesting he would hold aid from Ukraine? And Biden just held it up for months. Totally fine, I guess, to do that when it's on the other side of the aisle. By the way, his administration, just in general, is completely falling apart. The Biden-Harris administration has now been stopped from their $500 billion student loan cancellation scheme and election bribery plan, according to Attorney General Andrew Bailey of Missouri, who is one of, if not the best, attorney general in this entire nation. He said today that the Eighth Circuit Court has upheld the court order that Missouri had obtained to block the Biden-Harris $500 billion student loan cancellation project. That is a major blow to the Biden administration. This is their fourth time that they have now tried to forgive student loan, even though the Supreme Court or a federal court has slapped their wrists each and every time. A kid who keeps reaching for the cookie jar before dinner is no. And then Joe Harris, they're just still a-going for it. The economy's not doing super well either, because Americans now have, on average, according to TransUnion, over $6,300 in credit card debt per family. That's over $1.14 trillion in credit card debt in total. And that's a very significant number, guys, because this isn't just having less spending money. Guys, credit card debt accrues. Credit card debt is a crippling factor in many divorces in the United States, in many cases of domestic violence, in many, many cases of suicide, as well as huge chunks of long-term bankruptcy effects and housing market collapses in this country. So the stock market roller coaster, yeah, that's a problem. Massive amounts of credit card debt because of the high inflation, families can't afford food, fuel, rent. That is a major lodestone wrapped around the necks of Americans. And we haven't even gotten to Title IX next, because Biden administration's Title IX policies are just getting wilder. We're going to be talking with Mailman from the IWF next. Stick around. You're not going to want to miss it. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal, and first on 93 WIBC.
93 WIBC.
Trump-Harris debate, September 10th on ABC. Critical that Harris isn't taking questions.
She can't do a news conference. She doesn't know how to do a news conference.
Another news update is minutes away.
Several women have accused the former deputy mayor of Indianapolis of sexual harassment and assault.
Thomas Cook worked for Mayor Joe Hogsett for years, finally being let go last year.
Take those concerns seriously.
On the level, on the go.
Colts get back to work today.
93 WIBC Mobile News.
If you can't get a good night's sleep, let me ask you, are you breathing well? Because if you're snoring or waking up each night with a stuffed up nose, or frustrated with your CPAP mask, the root of your sleep problem lies in your breathing triangle. And if any one of those passages isn't working, you won't sleep well. And there's no mattress, pill, or other gimmick that can fix that. I'm Dr. Madan Kandula. A recipe for a good night's sleep starts with an open airway. Now, there are devices that can help solve snoring or sleep apnea problems. If you walk into a sleep center, know you'll walk out with a CPAP. And you might find other options elsewhere, but the simple truth is, if your nose doesn't work properly, no device will help. Only at Advent will you find every effective snoring and sleep apnea solution, along with a world-class team that can get your nose working properly again.
Go to adventknows.com to schedule your appointment, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better.
Recently, a new client called me and started by saying, "Mr. Morgan, I really need your help, but I'm just a nobody." Those words stunned me, and I immediately called him back, and we're now helping him and his family after a terrible accident. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Everybody who comes to our firm at their time of need is a somebody. I grew up poor, but my grandmother was like a queen to us. At Morgan & Morgan, our goal is to level the playing field for you and your family at your time of need. The insurance company has unlimited money and resources. You need a firm who can fight them toe-to-toe. For right at 30 years, we have fought them in courtrooms throughout America. Our results speak for themselves. And always remember this: everybody is a somebody, and nobody is a nobody. Visit forthepeople.com to learn about our firm, Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Hey, this is Spencer Thompson at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus. Now through Monday, Smith Brothers of Burn Furniture is on sale during the factory authorized sale. 1,000 fabrics, 100 leathers, lifetime warranty, completely custom, made in Indiana. It's the best, and it's the lowest price in 2024. Lazy Boy recliners start at $499, and Tempur-Pedic and Stearns & Foster mattresses are up to $900 off. Sale ends Monday only at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
Hey, it's Big Joe for Absolute Comfort, your trusted independent American Standard Air dealer. And owner Chris Wedekin sells the Mitsubishi Electric Mini Split, a great option for heating and cooling where ductwork can't be installed.
If you have one of those homes that has baseboard heat or electric heat, ceiling cable heat, these can be specifically designed for those houses because in those houses it's very difficult having to do all the construction and remodeling that goes with adding ductwork into those types of homes.
Find out more by going to AbsoluteComfort.org. Absolute Comfort is your trusted independent American Standard Air Mitsubishi Electric Elite Ductless Pro dealer.
The Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council present the story of Tom and Levi.
Tom is the smartest man I know. He's been a professor at 2 major universities, been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, he told me that he was having problems in his classes. I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. And he was telling them that he was doing it as a favor to them, but I think in reality, he just wanted to get out of there. I was really starting to worry because I saw something was wrong.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me, and my love for him was just immense.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Prescription opioids can be addictive and dangerous.
Opioid pain medication took everything that I had. Nothing mattered more than getting my fix. I was on the verge of being homeless. My house was being foreclosed on. Knowing that it could have been prevented makes it worse. It just takes one.
Prescription opioids. It only takes a little to lose a lot. Visit cdc.gov/RxAwareness.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, now nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC. The Title IX regulations that have governed making sure that women are not harassed or not discriminated against in public school settings over the last several years are now being rewritten, reformed, rejiggered by the Biden administration because, well, it's all about that magical bowl of alphabet soup, the LGBTQ plus 2IA 8765309 crowd. And it's not getting any better, or is it? Or now that these regulations are going into place, some states are blocking it, some states aren't. It is a giant multi-stage car accident of stuff going on. So from the Independent Women's Forum, we brought on May Mailman, the director of the Independent Women's Law Center. May, I really appreciate your coming on. And can you just help us understand, at least at the beginning, what are these new Title IX regulatory reforms doing?
Yeah, so this is a complete rewrite of Title IX. Title IX, a 1972 law meant to protect women's educational opportunities. So not just what classes you can take, but what extracurriculars you can take. So that's why it's often tied in with athletics. And instead of honoring the purpose of Title IX, these new rules reinterpret sex discrimination to mean gender identity discrimination. And that sounds nice. Nobody should be discriminated against. Okay, isn't that nice? What that actually means is that you should treat people, you must treat people in order to get federal funding. You must treat people according to their gender identity. Well, what does that mean? That means if a male identifies as a female, then he should be treated as a female, that he should be allowed into locker rooms, into bathrooms, to take women's scholarships, to be in women's sex ed classes, overnight camps. Like, just treat the man as a woman. And that violates Title IX. So that is why a bunch of states sued, 26 states. And there is an injunction in every single one of those 26 states, even though there were multiple different lawsuits that were filed. So we're definitely going to see more action, legal action, including the Supreme Court is going to have to weigh in at some point because the Biden administration asked them to. So we'll see. But if you live in one of those 26 states, as in you've got a Republican AG or Republican governor, you're probably protected.
So let's break this Title IX reform complete rewrite, as you more adequately phrased, into the common perspective here. Let's put this, down on the shelf for those who don't spend their time thumbing through nonsensical passive-aggressive rewrites in order to preen and posture. You taught sixth grade in Kansas City. I taught middle school science in Milwaukee, and then here in Eastern Central Indiana before I moved up to the high school levels. We know what the younger teenagers are like, right? This is something that we are experienced with. And giving a middle school boy the opportunity, in fact, the encouragement in some circumstances, to say, you know what, you want to use the girls' locker room? You can. That sounds like what's the word I'm looking for? A really bad idea. And in this day and age, with that federal regulation, all of that federal money tied into that, this isn't just some kind of conservative conspiracy theory. This isn't just some, California is doing something else crazy. This is a federal rewrite encouraging this stuff to happen.
Yeah, this is what I like to call gender ideology top to bottom throughout our schools. So a couple of misconceptions about Title IX. One, that it is a college rule. As you mentioned, this is any school. So any educational program that accepts federal dollars, so that's middle schools, that's elementary schools, that's daycare, that's Head Start, they have to implement this new definition of sex-based harassment. And so, it's also gender ideology top to bottom because it affects speech.
Right.
So this is the misgendering, quote unquote misgendering, actually calling someone their biologically accurate pronouns, which is, yes, this is going to affect who can go into the bathroom, but also if you want to be called, a certain pronoun, and this is really not limited to traditionally male or traditionally female pronouns. Gender identity is not defined in the rule. There's no reason that it
What a surprise.
Require some, bizarre pronoun or, my question is, would it require access to litter boxes if you identify as a cat? And the problem is, it sounds so silly, it sounds so stupid, but if you don't if you don't limit gender identity, then these are unanswered questions in the rule. And I think that schools are really going to struggle because this is not a college rule. This is down to the youngest, most immature student. And just inculcating and exacerbating everything you see on TikTok by fiat is, I think, as you say, a very bad idea. And there's a lot on the line for these schools.
There was a lawyer in the last couple of weeks in Arizona, and I'm drawing a blank on the name, please forgive me, that a Hispanic lawyer who was arguing that this provided a mechanism, a lever, for students to racially discriminate in school, because then they could use whatever racial slurs they wanted, and he listed some anti-Hispanic racial slurs. And if he was called out, say, I was just expressing this individual's preferred pronouns. They identify as insert racial slur here. And again, because there's no definition, there's no actual objective standard for what these rewrites are. It's all this affirmation-based, nonsensical, qualitative style legal policy. I mean, we're not even talking about jumping through legal hoops. There are no definitive lines or edges to this. All that it does, as you pointed out quite clearly, is hurts those who are trying to maintain free speech and also trying to maintain safe environments for students in a very hormonal and dangerous time.
Exactly. And just, one more point on the free speech angle, which I think is going to be difficult for teachers to monitor, which is under the old Title IX rules and Supreme Court precedent, sex-based harassment meant something that was severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive.
Right.
So if a school allows a male to continually harass a female every day, and it's severe and it's offensive, and then that school needs to stop that male from doing that, because otherwise they're denying that female an educational opportunity. Okay, the Biden administration changed things. So not only is that harassment, that sex-based harassment, now gender identity-based harassment. So now you're talking about misgendering. Okay, but it's no longer those three things. It no longer has to be severe and pervasive. It is severe or pervasive. Okay, so it doesn't have to be multiple times. So that means one instance of misgendering could maybe not kick you out of school, but certainly create pressure on the teacher, create pressure on the school to punish whoever did the quote unquote misgendering, because they don't want to lose their Title IX funds. So that is the speech police. That is every single time you are. What if somebody complains? What if a woman complains and said, "There's a male in my locker room and I don't want them in there." Okay,
right.
it was
that
one
she's
time.
the one who then gets in trouble. Or
exactly.
Even, again, even worse, if you're a teacher and I'm walking down the hall and I see a group of boys that are walking into the female locker rooms, I can't reprimand them at all. In fact, I'm required to defend those students going in there if they are harassed by other students from entering. You could have a situation, literally the way that this is written, I'm examining a situation in which a kid could be passed over for some kind of an assignment that they wanted, or passed over for, you remember as a teacher, one kid might get some kind of a special privilege for something by chance. And they could argue, well, since I'm transgender as of today, this teacher clearly did this because they're discriminating against me. I consider it severe, even though it's not pervasive. This looks like it was written in crayon, yet the implications are ridiculous. I mean, it's amazing that this kind of the holdups that we've seen in some states have been allowed to be held up in states throwing this down at all.
Yeah. And the Biden administration seems to think that this is really just not a big deal. And
you don't say.
And they're pointing to two reasons why I think that that's the case, is that they have arbitrarily made some distinctions in this Title IX rule, where they say, okay, we do acknowledge that Title IX allows you to be treated on the basis of your sex, which they can't avoid that. So Title IX is not this rule that's like, hey, sex doesn't exist anymore. Just everybody should be treated equally. No, Title IX says don't discriminate on the basis of sex, but it is absolutely okay to treat people on the basis of their sex, including you can have separate housing, you can have sororities, you can have fraternities, you can have Girls' State, you can have YMCA, you can treat people on the basis of their sex. You can have women's athletics, you can have men's athletics. So it's never been a sex abolition statute. It's a don't treat women poorly statute. And so what the Biden administration tried to do is they said, well, we kind of realized that, so we're going to carve out athletics. And the existing athletics rule is in place. And the existing athletics rule basically says you can have men's and women's athletics so long as the teams are basically equal. They're given equal resources, that type of thing. Okay, is that really a give? And they're trying to make people think that it is, but then when you look what they're actually doing, what they've actually done is they've said, yes, you can have a women's team as long as that women's team has men on it, right? As long as that women's team does not discriminate on the basis of gender identity. So you're not giving anything at all. And so that's what's really sneaky about this, is every time they're trying to minimize and say, no, this is not gender ideology, we're just doing procedural changes. Absolutely not. The things that they're doing, the lawsuits that they're bringing in court, they've told West Virginia, West Virginia may not have a women's sports bill, may not. Why? Because Title IX requires women's teams to have men on them. So there's really nothing reasonable or moderate about this position.
Well, I seriously look forward to seeing perhaps a different administration, perhaps a different series of court challenges that bring these things to a point where women are protected, as I'm sure most individuals with common sense do as well. Mailman, director of the Independent Women's Law Center, privileged to have you on. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We'll be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal and first on 93 WIBC.
Greetings from R&R Agency, your Indiana health insurance pros. And a thank you to our loyal customers for making our agency a national sales leader for the 7th straight year. We recently saved a family of 4 over $500 monthly when compared to their ACA plan. You know it's still Obamacare, right? We recently saved a 61-year-old retiring couple over $600 when compared to their COBRA plan. Breaking news. We are now able to offer health insurance to employer groups of all sizes with 2 of the largest insurers in the Midwest. We'll be here when you need us. Quoting my favorite president, what the heck do you have to lose? We can help. As always, God bless America, or at least what's left of her.
Call Ron or Terry at 317-563-0868. That's 317-563-0868. Or go to rragency.org. That's rragency.org. A health plan managed and chosen by you, not the government.
Lynn loves summer in Indy, but she hates to paint, so she called Rhino Shield.
It is a single-wide manufactured home. We moved from our home, which we had the Rhino Shield on. Rhino Shield was what we were going to do. That was no question. We knew we were going to do it.
Rhino Shield's a ceramic coating. It's not paint, it's better.
The Rhino Shield representative came, and we discussed what we wanted done. And this time, we had the roof done as well.
Formulated for our specific climate here in Indy, and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty.
We truly believe in this product.
And right now you can get the guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield for 10% off the regular price. Plus, there's more great news. Rhino Shield has partnered with Green Sky Financing to offer affordable monthly payments with 0% interest loans to qualified customers. Here's Rhino Shield Shane Smith.
Call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint. Go Rhino.
Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Hi, it's T. Brian Hayes here from the Retirement Money Matters Show. You know, many people say life comes down to just a few moments. Now, I'm not so sure about that, but I do know your retirement plan comes down to the proper knowledge and understanding of some important dates and ages. Join me this weekend as we discuss all these key dates and ages and the importance behind them so you do not miss out on opportunities or get hit with penalties. The Retirement Money Matters Show airs this Saturday morning at 6 a.m. right here on WIBC.
Hey, don't take your eyes off the road, just listen. What you hear right now? Your customers hear it too. Get your message heard. Text BUSINESS to 71007 now. Get results with Radio 1.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf. Call 800-631-9123. 800-631-9123. That's 800-631-9123.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at abacuspays.com, we've created a free policy value calculator so you can find out the worth of your policy in just seconds. There are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at abacuspays.com.
Indy Humane, committed to helping Central Indiana's pets in need since 1905. Find your new best friend today. IndyHumane.org.
Go, 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 go. And on the count of
This
three.
is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
All right, we've got a little bit of breaking news that we need to address. So at the moment, there are emergency trucks outside of the White House. The gates have all been shut down. Multiple entrances to the White House have been blocked off. And Secret Service and firefighters are currently investigating a suspicious object that was emitting some kind of an odor. Now, Biden is in Delaware. So I know there's a lot of rumors going around. Oh, this is it, President Biden. No, he's in Delaware at the moment. He's not at the White House. Kamala's not at the White House either, which, you know, kind of the whole point of the show. No one's at the White House. The world is burning down at the moment. And even when there are severe security concerns at the White House, no one is there. I'm honestly at this point, I think it would be just as likely that what they actually did was catch somebody squatting. One of the illegal immigrants that were filming videos of here's how you squat. There was somebody squatting in the White House, and they just found him tonight because no one's been in the White House for the last couple of weeks to look. So, I mean, fantastic stuff. By the way, it is nice to report just a little bit on the media starting to lose its focus. So for just a short moment here in this 2024 election, the media was unified for kind of the first time since about November. So since about November, the media has been coming up with all of these different kinds of excuses. They were really put on the back foot. So at the time, back in November through about April, the story that the media was trying to cover for was that Joe Biden is dying. Joe Biden has extreme amounts of dementia. He's clearly not well. He can't lead the country. And there is something that you can do to tell when the media is starting to lose ground, that no one believes them anymore, that the narrative has failed, and that the majority of the country believes something contrary to what the media has been pushing. That is that they will start making different excuses. So Axios will publish one excuse, and then CNN will publish a different excuse, MSNBC, WAPO, Vox, and on down the line. And so the excuses for Biden were always different. Oh, he's actually fine. The videos are just cheap fakes, or they're slowed down, or the president was just jet lagged, or actually Biden is fine. You just don't understand him, or actually age is a good thing. It's full of wisdom and experience, or well, maybe he's not doing super well, but at least that's better than Trump. And well, actually behind closed doors, he's better. Well, actually he has just a stutter. He's always had this stutter, or well, the president just has a lot on his mind. See what I mean? There were excuses that were all different depending on the outlet because there was no narrative that was holding anymore. Now we are starting to see the same thing with the Kamala Harris and the Tim Walz campaign. So for just a few short weeks after Kamala Harris did a Soviet Union 1991 style coup and removed Joe Biden from the presidency and became the new DNC nominee for 2024. Oh, sorry, let me explain. In 1991, Gorbachev had pushed the Soviet Union too far. Demokratizatsiya, perestroika, openness, and democracy were being funneled into the Soviet Union for the first time, and a lot of hardline communists were upset. And so Gorbachev got the flu. He was sick one weekend. And then, on a beautiful morning, the Soviet news anchors got on television and introduced a panel of individuals who claimed that Gorbachev had the flu and the Soviet Union was going to be put back into order. And that's pretty much what happened with Kamala Harris. Biden got COVID, and then all of a sudden, a press statement and then a tweet were released saying that Biden was stepping down. So when I say the Soviet Union coup, I mean, quite honestly, they're very similar events. So the media originally were going all in on the girl power, the joy, and oh, it's just so wonderful. Yas, queen, just delivering. Kamala's so wonderful. And that was the tone for the last couple of weeks. Then people started having concerns. And the concerns that they started to have was that, hey, Kamala's not actually out in public addressing any concerns. Kamala's not actually out here answering any questions. What are her plans for the country? And the media tried to ignore it as long as they could. Now you're getting a ton of excuses. So from one outlet, you're getting, well, actually, she is answering questions. She's just not answering questions that Republicans want her to. It's from the Washington Post, which isn't true. None of the outlets are asking her questions. CNN is reporting on her being on the tarmac, but what their reporter was literally hiding behind a Chevy Suburban instead of actually addressing Kamala Harris. And then the Associated Press 3 hours ago wrote, "Meet the press? Hold that thought. The candidate sit-down interview ain't what it used to be." Oh, you don't want Kamala to sit down and answer questions. That's silly. So now they're all starting to diverge because the country is wondering, where is she? Who's running the country? Who has plans for the country? What is going on? Why is Kamala running a basement campaign? There's no COVID. She's not 97,000 years old. Where is she? And they're doing the same thing with Tim Walz, because Tim Walz is turning out to be the worst possible person that they could have picked. Told you. And the stolen valor controversy in particular, coupled with all of the other bevy of super progressive liberal policies and other things that he's done, from the COVID lockdown snitch line to transing the children in tampons in boys' bathrooms, the stolen valor is probably the worst one, where he basically has claimed, A, that he was retired as a command sergeant major. He did not. He was demoted from command sergeant major because he did not meet the requirements that he agreed to fulfill to become a command sergeant major. He was demoted to master sergeant, which is a fine non-commissioned officer rank. I don't know why he would need to lie about that, but anyhow. Next was that he, upon receiving warning orders, knowing that he might be deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan, he bailed on his unit and ran for Congress. That's confirmed by members of his unit. And then number 3, he said he was like a war combat veteran. C-SPAN listed him as an Afghanistan veteran. No, he served in Italy for a while. Italy is not Afghanistan or Iraq. So this brings us to the media trying to cover here as well. So the different headlines suggesting why Walz is or isn't guilty of stolen valor, or actually why it's fine, they're all starting to splinter. Because the narrative in the country is shifted against him. People know Walz is a liar. So the outlets can't even keep their story straight now. So Politico wrote, Harris campaign tweaks Walz biography amid scrutiny of military credentials. Tweaks. They just quietly deleted a bunch of lies that they had about him. This is from Sydney Kashwigi. She is from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Walz's National Guard records show that Vance's claim of stolen valor is false. Rochelle Olson fact-checks these claims. And she's already had to bring retractions to that story because of how quickly she's been called out. So that's just flat out denial from the Star-Tribune. Then Jim Sciutto from CNN says, well, actually, we're talking about varying degrees of military service, not military service itself. Walz served 24 years. Vance served 4. So going after Vance. Oh, well, Vance only served 4 years compared to the 24 years of Tim Walz in the National Guard. The active duty Marines are active duty 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, unless you're on leave. National Guard is a mostly leave style role. I mean, again, not even going to get into the nitpicking on this particular case. We've already done so. There's yet another narrative for you. From the Washington Post. Now it appears that spokesman Amar Musa told the Post that, oh, the governor misspoke. Oh, he's just been misspeaking all this time. Oh, he meant to say the truth, but he's just been misspeaking a little bit. It's fallen apart, and it's going to continue to fall apart. The honeymoon cannot hold. Americans don't trust the media anymore. This is what I've been hearing all the time, and we're going to talk about it in the Mail Time segment up next. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, and first on 93 WIBC.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Before I was adopted, I felt alone.
I felt nervous that I wouldn't have a family.
I was getting older and older. I didn't think I was going to get adopted.
With help from the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption, Lexi, Connor, and LaShawna now have a forever family and the foundation for a bright future.
When I was adopted, it was like, wow, I get to settle, and this is permanent.
After I was adopted, I felt happy.
Adoption changed me for the better. I feel like I can be whoever I want to be.
Every child deserves a safe, loving, and permanent home. Help the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption find forever families for children who have been lingering in foster care the longest. Learn more at davethomasfoundation.org.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu.
Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Terry Stacy here. Honey Baked Ham isn't just for the holidays. Stop in for lunch and choose from handcrafted sandwiches, salads, soups, and more. Or take home a heat and serve family meal that comes with a home-style main dish, sides, and rolls. Perfect for busy weekend nights and better than fast food. Have a special event this summer? Let Honey Baked cater with sandwich trays or a VIP buffet with all the extras. Honey Baked on West 96th Street in Indy or Greyhound Pass in Carmel makes it easy to serve something special any day of the year.
Aren't you worried Max might run off? He's safe. We installed invisible fence. See a special collar? So he can roam freely but won't leave the yard? Exactly. And it was so easy. Invisible fence installed everything and even sent out an expert to train Max. I need invisible fence for Roxy.
Go to invisiblefence.com to get started today, absolutely risk-free. Give your pet freedom and safety. Go to invisiblefence.com right now and schedule your free consultation. Go to invisiblefence.com. That's invisiblefence.com.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
The Phone Ready quiz from the American Academy of Pediatrics will help you decide if you and your child are ready for their first phone. Go to healthychildren.org/phone ready quiz.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Closing time. Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93 WIBC. It is time for a little bit of viewer content, and there's a couple doozies this week. That's right, it's time for
Mail time.
Mail time. Mail time.
Mail time.
So, this first question is from Kim. She says, which polling aggregator do you find the most trustworthy? So, polling aggregators are the people who say, well, overall, this is how much Trump is ahead or behind, Kamala ahead or behind. I personally like Real Clear Polling, but that's because for two reasons. Number one, I really, really like Real Clear Politics. I've written for Real Clear Investigations a little bit here and there. I think that Mark Hemingway does a phenomenal job of running it. Real Clear is an excellent aggregator source for both news, commentary, analysis, and polling. So I really like them. If I had to pick a second favorite, it'd probably be Nate Silver, who founded 538. The reasons that I like both of these is, I'd say, because they're really easy to use. I don't have to scroll through a bunch of spreadsheets and ads and a bunch of other junk and garbage. Also, they're pretty fair. They list both left-leaning and right-leaning polls that are only slightly adjusted for their tilt, instead of trying to lean on, for example, the CBS poll aggregator basically discounts Rasmussen by like 90%, but will rank the CBS YouGov poll at a full 100%. Yeah, that's kind of shady. Real Clear and Nate Silver don't do that. And then navigation. A website is only as good as how well you can use it. And that's why I like those. This next one is from John. He says, why are Trump and Kamala stuck with a ceiling of voters? I think he's referencing by saying that both Kamala and Trump have about a ceiling. Only 47% of the country, shout out to Mitt Romney, is going to vote for either Trump or Kamala. Either of them. 47%, one or the other. 47% of this country is going to vote Republican for Trump. 47% of this country is Democrat, and they're going to vote in support of Kamala if they all voted. And the reason that I believe they have that ceiling is because Trump's been in the public eye of politics now as the most polarizing figure for like 12 years. You could probably make an argument most effectively for about 9 years. But 12 years since he really started getting out on Twitter and criticizing Obama. Kamala is an extremely liberal member of the Democrat Party and is also closely aligned with Joe Biden's perception of the country. So because the country is so polarized, you've created two separate camps. That's a ceiling. That's why the election comes down to demoralizing the moderates to come and vote for their candidate. This Next question is, I can't read this, but it's like T4X something is a username. He says, what part of campaigning do you hate the most? I hate scripted crap. This is the one thing that the Indianapolis Star reporters who go and cover some like gubernatorial things and we agree on 100%. I hate it when a candidate comes and says the same opening speech at every event. I've heard it so many times. Kamala Harris was just doing this. Kamala Harris is literally going around the country right now and reading the exact same speech. Check it out here. This is on Fox News today.
It really is good to be back in Wisconsin. It is so good to be back in Michigan. Listen, let me tell you, I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. And listen, I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. I took on perpetrators of all kinds. I took on perpetrators of all kinds.
Okay, I don't care for that. Actually be tuned into your own campaign. This is the reason that I don't like Lincoln Day dinners a lot, is because it's a bunch of candidates reading the same thing that they've read in all the other counties or cities. It's a waste of time. Actually engage with the campaign. And there's news going on all the time. Talk about that. It's kind of relevant. It's what your voters are concerned about. This next question, I'm not going to say who this is from, out of respect for not being called a creep, but they asked, do I wear pants during interviews? Like, am I wearing pants right now here underneath this desk? And the answer is sometimes. Sometimes I'm always wearing pants. But what kind of pants are they? Do they match what is above here on camera? A lot of the time, yeah. In recent weeks, because one of the reasons we're building in a studio at the moment is because it is unbearably hot in here. Sometimes I do wear shorts. I do. And I'm not going to tell you what those are because that's weird. And look, I'm all one for a good laugh, but quit thinking about my pants. There are other important questions to dig into. So the last question that I'd kind of like to tackle here at the moment is, why do I not take the media maybe as seriously as the biggest threat in this election? Because the majority of the country does not trust the media. The media has, I mean corporate legacy style media, like your USA Today, your affiliate TV networks. There have been too many examples of TV networks saying the exact same script, for example, regarding COVID, or using the exact same kind of really just propagandist literature, diving into the same points that have been already debunked. People just don't trust it anymore. It's so openly partisan. I don't really think it's as effective. And it's already such a hassle to come through and go through the voting process that I don't believe that what you're going to see is that kind of lock and step this time. It's just not likely. I could be wrong. We'll be back next week. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's always a joy to be with you. This has been the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal, syndicated nationally and first on 93 WIBC.